Hi everyone, I'm Amy and this is my partner Maggie, and together we are ThinkerThemer, and today we're doing a Kickstarter preview for Flamecraft, a game by Manny Vega. The art is by Sendara Tang, and this is coming from Cardboard Alchemy and it's coming to Kickstarter soon. Today we're just going to give you a brief rundown of how the game plays, what it's all about, and whether it might be right for you to back or not.
So in Flamecraft, we are all flame keepers, and we're in this beautiful town where all these lovely little shops. And what you'll find is in this beautiful town, there are these cute little dragons which are not the same kind of dragons that we all know from all those kind of fiery, destructive, violent sort of places and things. These dragons are the cousins of those dragons, and these dragons are more magical and more artistic and more kind of crafty. So our role is, as we're apparently able to talk to these dragons, we're going to be able to place them in different shops because the shopkeepers have realized that not only are they amazing at their artistry, but the customers absolutely love to see these dragons doing their magical and wondrous things. So the better we match these dragons with shops and get everybody happy, then the more reputation we'll have, and the better the flame keeper or the master flame keeper we shall be.
And they're so cute because they're artisan dragons, cousins of dragons.
Yeah.
There's these potable potions where they're making, what is that, like little juices?
Yeah, so it would be like magical little potions, or I'm imagining tinctures and
a nursery where there's plants. They're making bread.
Yep.
They're just creating all these. There's a coffee one.
Yes.
Kind of artisanal spaces.
Smith smart.
This looks like
working iron and
the type of town where you'd go and then you'd spend a lot of souvenir dollars.
This is like a perfect weekend town. Yeah, to go on a day trip and
you come home with 10 candles.
Yeah. And you go, what am I going to do with these things now? Yeah.
Anyway, super cute. The way the game plays is actually really straightforward. It's a super quick game to teach, which is fabulous. So I should be able to give you a really brief overview. Every player has one of these beautiful dragon minis. I should say that everything that you see here is subject to change. Of course, this is just a prototype. But in the mat, you've got this village center, and it's going to be set up with some starter shops. So these are the shops that you can see placed out currently. And on your turn, all you do is move your little dragon character from one shop to another shop. So you have to move to a different shop, and there is no rules in terms of how you move around the village. You can just jump from here to here, then here to here. The only rule is that if you join another dragon on a shop, you need to pay them an item. Now, in this game, items are the resources. In this prototype copy, they're just cubes, but they will be little shapes, I believe, in the Kickstarter. You will be collecting all these different types of resources, and the reason why you want to do that is because ultimately you want to perform enchantments. Now, enchantments are objective cards that require a different number of resources, and when you go to a shop, you're going to have two options. You can either gather, which means when you get there, you are able to collect the resource that's shown on the corner of that shop, as well as any of the resources that are shown on the dragons that have been placed there, which I'll demonstrate in a moment, because then the next thing that you get to do is you have the option to place a dragon from your hand onto that shop. It has to match the little symbol that's shown for the type of dragon. So for example, if I was to go here, I would collect one bread resource, and then I could place a bread dragon on this bread symbol here. It would give me a bonus of 2 victory points for doing that. And then I get to activate one of the dragons. There's only one dragon here, so I would activate that, and they all have a special power. In this instance, the yellow bread dragon allows me to draw another dragon from the park pool into my hand. So what you're going to be doing when you gather is getting all of these resources, bringing them in, doing actions. Sometimes those actions allow you to get more resources. And then the other option, instead of gathering, is I might go to another shop, and this time I want to enchant. Now, when you enchant, that is basically saying that you want to fulfill an objective card. The objective card has to match the symbol on the shop, and then you will place it or slide it under the shop, and it has a matching, if it has a matching symbol, which it has to play it, you would pay the resources, you would get the bonus on the card, and it would slide under. And now from now on, whenever anyone gathers on this spot, they're getting more resources. So as the game builds up and people are achieving more objectives, there's going to be more dragons, there's going to be more enchantments building up on the shop, which means that as you're moving around, you have the opportunity to collect more and more resources. Now, in this game, there are a number of ways to get victory points. One is to fulfill those enchantments. The other is to collect fancy dragons. And so fancy dragons allow you to gather a one-time bonus, or they have an end game objective. So if you're allowed to, using one of the action spots, collect one of these fancy dragons, you would look at it, understand your objective, and really put it to the side so it's separate to your hand. Now, the rest of your hand is really all different colored dragons. So these dragons not only go in the different spots on the shops, but they also do different actions. Now, even though the artwork is different, unique on every card of every color, all of one color always do the same thing. So once you've learnt the 6 different colors, which are also on the handy reference sheet, you will know exactly that a yellow dragon does this versus a green dragon, or a plant dragon does that. So I had to add the thematic term. The plant dragon. Or the potion dragon. The purple dragon allows you to swap some of the dragons around in the town. So really the dragons are giving you different abilities that you can get done on top of the essentially contract fulfillment and resource collecting in this game. The only other thing in this game is that once we have 3 dragons in one of these shops, it triggers a new shop. So you would draw a new shop from the shop pile and put it into a space in town. It doesn't matter where it goes because you can move around freely. But these new shops have a power associated with them. And that's where the game starts to get really interesting, because now you've got these worker placement spots essentially that give you another type of boost. So this shop, for example, actually gives you a dragon when you go there, and then it allows you to choose a dragon in the park and activate it, and then bring it into your hand at the end of your gather turn. So they've all have really different powers and abilities. So really, that creates a lot of variability in the game, because no 2 games are going to be the same, because the worker placement spots are going to be changing. So even though this is just a prototype, I guess the thing that we want to do with these videos is really give you a sense of what it feels like to play. So what did you think?
Well, I really love how the rhythm of it, or the speed of it, really ramps up. It's kind of like if you imagine that we've gone to this town for the weekend or just for a day trip, and you arrive early and you've only just kind of had your coffee, and like the shops are only just opening up, and so there's not really a lot that you can do initially. But as more and more people arrive and things start to get a little bit more like hustle and bustle, then things just really end up ramping up, and that very much, I feel, mimics the speed and what happens in the game. So there's a bit of that kind of momentum, and all of a sudden you start going, oh great, I can get all sorts of stuff over here, and then I can trade over there, and I can enchant this shop, and then that triggers all these other stuff. So I usually love a resource, like kind of collect resources and swap them for something else, or collect resources and then use them to fulfill a particular objective. But one of the things that I also enjoy with this one is when you're fulfilling that objective, you're also getting another added bonus of all those dragons that are in those shops. So it's kind of like you've done a ha-ha in that shop, and everybody there has just been like, oh my goodness, and everyone's giving you goodies as well. So so those are some of my favorite things.
I think that is a great point, because the game does like scale up across the course of the game. And if you're a person who loves to feel really good about a move, this is a game that is not punishing, it's not tense, and it's really positive interaction. So aside from when you go somewhere where another dragon is and you need to pay an item to the other player, there's not really any take that. There's not really any meanness in this game. And overall, it just feels like everywhere you go, you're getting good stuff. And some places are going to give you more good stuff, but other places might give you the stuff that you need, so you might go there instead. But as people are progressing in this game and adding more and more enchantment cards underneath the shops, they become really powerful. So if you've got a spot that has 3 dragons and maybe 4 or 5 enchantment cards, when you go there, you are getting like a huge load of resources. And that's super satisfying, because then what happens is the pace changes because people are collecting more resources. They're also fulfilling more objectives, which puts more cards in play. And then we start to get some of those more complex, interesting shops happening. And then the game really, really starts to take off. I should also say that the game ends when one of the 2 decks of dragons is complete. And really, it feels like that can come around pretty quickly, especially in a game with more than 2 players. So we played it multiplayer and we played it 2 players. There's no solo mode as of yet, at least. But when we played it 2 players, it was more, I felt like we were able to get more done.
Yeah,
like we were able to get through more of the objectives.
Because it takes you longer to then get through that deck, and so you do kind of manage to enchant more stores and just generally, visit more places and do more things.
And even though you do add more dragons in for more players, I just found, like, when we were playing with my sister, for example, she was just like collecting as many dragons as she could, and so the game like ended really quickly, and we were like, oh no, we were going to do a lot of other stuff, but the game in and of itself, it just feels really relaxing.
Yeah, very pleasant.
It is
it's
really
like a pleasant Sunday out in a
it's
beautiful
just like
artistry kind of crafty town.
The decision space is not huge. You know that there's 5 objective cards out, and you know what types of resources you're going to need. You also need to think ahead in terms of which shop you need to go to do that enchantment. But for the most part, you're just moving your dragon from one shop to the other and activating the cards.
There's a nice also element of discovery when you kind of manage to open up that new store, where it's like the town
I love the new stores.
Yeah, the town got busy enough that now another shop's like, oh, let me open up. And you're like, oh, what's this? So, and because, that's such a huge deck of additional stores, I found that, over multiple games, you very rarely, like, you never really get to go through the entire deck. Like, it would take you several games to see all the shops, and all the shops, like, they all have different kind of places that you can go, and then their actions are unique, and almost like some of them have almost like a fair or kind of chance element about them. So it's I found it extremely pleasant.
And you can see the victory point trackers here, so that's really open information. The part where at the end of the game there's a little bit of tension around who's going to win, that's because of all these hidden objective cards, the fancy dragons. You can't really ignore those. They do give you a lot of points at the end of the game. The other fun thing is you can collect coins along the way, and these are not final coins, but when you collect a coin, that's a wild resource as well. It's also worth a victory point at the end of the game, so you can just collect coins if you want to kind of bank some victory points for the end of the game. But I always found that this game, every time we played it, was very close in scoring, but it just never felt super like tight or competitive in like a true tense kind of style of some of the other Euros that we're used to. So which brings us to, who would this game suit?
Yeah. So I think, well, one, the artwork and just sort of the mini world that's been created is absolutely beautiful. So it's just like, if you love kind of those beautiful components, and it does take quite a bit of space on the mat itself. And again, I don't know if that will change, because obviously there's all prototype components, but it's kind of nice and pleasant table presence that then kind of brings you into that world. So if you like that sort of thing, if you are a fan of nice components and beautiful artwork, then if you like games where you are just kind of, if you love resources and discovery, it's not a heavy, like, brain burny type puzzle. So if that's what you're into, this is probably not going to be the thing for you. And though there's a couple of layers, but it's really more like a relaxed journey through
and once
town.
you learn what the dragons in your hand do, and you realize that there's really only 2 things you have to choose between, and that's gathering or enchanting. It's a really simple game to teach. So it's a great game if you've got a player group that potentially is a bit mixed in terms of their ability. If you're playing potentially with like teens or younger children, it definitely would suit. And the obviously the dragons and the artwork would definitely bring people in. I really like it as a way of having a game that is just a more of a relaxed feeling, and you can really kind of sink into the theme. It's really nice to have a game that has dragons that isn't doom and gloom and aggressive violence. So
fiery deaths and things like that. It's like not at all.
Yeah, it's like, no, this dragon's just going to make me a coffee, and I'm pretty happy about that.
In a really fantastical way. So,
yeah,
you're going to enjoy the show at the same time. Yeah.
So I hope that helps you learn a little bit more about Flamecraft. We will link to the Kickstarter campaign in the description below. If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back with more board game content soon. Bye for now.